Looking for something new in sci-fi or fantasy? Check out what Brandon Sanderson, Orson Scott Card, Nnedi Okorafor, and others chose as the best news stories of the year in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future Anthology. From 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at galaxypress.com, Amazon, or wherever books are sold.
All right, everybody. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, which boasts millions of listeners each week who are well known for and have been complimented on their very laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, esoteric, and other areas of high strangeness, and more. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. Yes, it is that time of year again. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. UFO Undercover brings you some of the most revealing and current research that is being done with respect to alien abductions and contact. Host Joe Montaldo has been an abduction researcher for over 35 years and is uniquely qualified to bring you live interviews with some of the most well-known researchers in ufology. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and get out and vote now.
You are listening to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, coming to you live on 105.3 right up to 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. UPRNtalkradio.com.
Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, I see we got people here already. Hey, Zach Man. Hey, Sandra Sharp. You're listening live to the Angel Rock on UFO Paranormal Radio Network, and I'm got all these things going here. Sorry, I got different devices. Thanks for joining us. If you want to watch the show live, you can head over to UFO Paranormal Radio either on Facebook or YouTube. You can also go to my YouTube channel, which is the Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin, and I have a public profile on Facebook. I know I'm streaming there, and I will remind you now because sometimes I forget that if you miss the live show, not a problem, because we are covered and carried wherever talk radio and podcasts are carried. So you can always hear the show, and anywhere it's broadcast with video, you can also watch it, some of the places I mentioned. But I love to make you guys part of the show. And today you got little old me, which is a good thing because sometimes that's fun because we get to talk about what you guys want to talk about. A little bit about myself. If you've never been here before, the Angel Rock, this is my 4-year anniversary. I believe, actually, I think it's today. It was either today or Sunday, but I love being at UPRN. I do 2 shows on this network. I do the Angel Rock tonight, and I co-host on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, The Thing at the Foot of the Bed with my amazing co-host, David Hansel. And like I say, that's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are also broadcasting to you many of our shows on Roku. We are on TV. We have our own channel on there. So if you want to find it, you head over to the channel store when you're logged in, and you're going to type in UFO space P as in paranormal. There's going to be a list that'll come up, and they're about the 3rd or 4th down, I believe. You're looking for UFO space paranormal and United Public Radio, and that's our TV channel on Roku. I know that we do stream The Thing at the Foot of the Bed on Roku, so you can watch us on there as well. Now, if you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends and your family, because we have amazing hosts on this network with incredible shows. We have a bunch of new shows. We are always growing and bringing to you the things that you're looking for. This network's been around for 25 years. So when we aren't streaming live, we usually have every night anywhere from, and even in the daytime, from anywhere from 5 to 7 or 8 shows live, but the archive server is also playing. So there's something for everybody there. Last thing, if you've never been to StreamYard before, because that's what we use, and you're on Facebook, you're going to come up as Facebook user. I will have no idea who you are with your comment. So you have two choices. You can either head over to streamyard.com/Facebook and you give them permission just to use your picture and your name. They're not going to spam you or anything like that. It just shows us who you are. Or please put your name after the comment because I won't know who you are. I think I've remembered everything. Oh, yes, we're starting off now with advertisements at the beginning and at the end. So we did the Outer Realm and UFO Undercover, both of our 2 shows. One of them is with Amelia Pisano and Michelle DeRoche, our station manager. They have same show, but 2 nights. And they're not the same show every night, but they've got 2 nights where they broadcast under the same name, The Outer Realm, Wednesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check out the show. It's amazing. That's why they're nominated. And then Joe Montaldo, who owns this network, I want to give him a shout out. I usually do every show. He is the wonderful gentleman who lives in New Orleans, Louisiana, where we're being broadcast from. And he has many shows on the network. Besides, he does some producing. And his show, he has 2 of them, UFO Undercover and I believe News on the Flip Side. Both of those are also nominated with the People's Choice Podcast Awards and I think Writers of the Future also is nominated. So please check that out too. Now, I guess I should introduce myself, right? That might be nice. Most of you know me, I can see by the comments, but my name is Lorilei Potvin. I'm a Canadian clairvoyant medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher, and mentor, and I'm a registered nurse. Usually we have lots of guests on the Angel Rock, but with the summertime, you never know what the weather's going to be like. Living up here in Canada, no, I don't live in an igloo. And as Zachman has said, no, I don't ride a moose to work or eat back bacon with maple syrup for lunch or supper and dinner and breakfast and everything. But our summers are shorter. We go anywhere from in the winter time of sometimes with the wind chill -50 to 55. There is no difference with Celsius or Fahrenheit. And we can go up as high as 110 degrees in the summertime with the humidity. So us Canadians are really hardy. So I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat here. I shouted some of you out, but hang on. We've got Sandra Sharp, like I said. We've got Zachman. I see we've got Z Sun Dragon. So hello, Kevin, I believe your name is. We got Michelle. She's in Australia. Everybody, welcome. I'm going to see. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Doesn't look like I did. So there we go. Thank you. I'm glad you love our show, but I don't know who you are. And I'm going to show your comment on the screen. It just comes up as Facebook user. So if you just let me know your name, who you are, or like I said, if you head to streamyard.com/Facebook, all you got to click is yes, so they can show your picture and your name, and then I'll know who you are. So both of those will work, or we can just call you Facebook user. But sometimes we get quite a few, and then I got to call you all Facebook users. So we're going to talk about all kinds of things spooky tonight. I thought we might even talk about, how to access some of your own. Yeah, it's Kevin. I thought so. Hi, Kevin. With Z Sun Dragon. And the reason why I read the comments out, because a large part of our listening audience is just listening. So they have no idea what we're talking about when we answer questions and comments and things like that. So I wanted to start out with something interesting. I watch all different aspects of many things. I watch the paranormal. I watch lots of spiritual things. I'm a true crime fan. I even keep on top of what's going on in the entertainment world, because depending on what, I go on a lot of different podcasts and do a lot of teaching and talking with different people. It all kind of comes into play. But I was watching a new channel. It's not a new channel, but it's a new one I've discovered called Radiant Brit. And she's a commentary channel on a lot of things that go on, a lot of misuse, say, with social media influencers and big YouTube channels and things like that. But she covered a really interesting topic tonight, and I thought it was important because it is scary. Hi, Jody from Aussieland. Of course, I know who you are. Hi. I don't know why it's not showing your name, because I know you've been on here before, Jody, so welcome. But I thought it was important what she mentioned, but I'm going to add a little bit of commentary to her video. She just uploaded it today. And like I said, she's on YouTube. It's all one word, Radiant Brit. And what she was talking about, and we're seeing this nowadays with social media and practically everybody having access to the internet or devices such as phones. Now, I always say it's not my job to judge, and it's not. But we are seeing kids, babies, having access to phones and iPads and things like this. But where she was going with this, and I've seen this before, and especially when we're teenagers, we're in middle school, even grade school, especially, we're starting to learn to navigate about people, friends, friendships, things like that. And especially in high school, she was talking about this, and I've seen it myself. I've seen many stories where kids have a friend group and you feel like it's a tight-knit friend group. It's your closest friend. You share maybe private or intimate details or photos. And there have been children, very sadly, my heart goes out to the families of these kids or anybody that's gone through something like this. But these kids have unalived themselves. So when, say, that friendship breaks down and somebody releases pictures that should not be on the internet, and there's no way to get rid of them. And I was actually happy to hear this because I got to use this phone. I see all the devices I have here, guys, because you know what? Sometimes the internet acts crazy here where I am. Sometimes I've had it go completely black in the middle of a show. So don't go anywhere. I'm not planning on that happening, but just in case, I never planned for it. Well, I guess I do, having 3 devices ready. But she mentioned something that Facebook and Instagram are doing, and it's a new platform called Take It Down. So this was put out actually by Fox Business, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it. It says Fox Books, because I think this is a scary thing. And it says Facebook and Instagram are among the social media services supporting a new platform, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And the letters or acronym for it are N as in Nancy, C, M as in mouse, EC. Says it will help combat child sexual exploitation and help children remove their sexually explicit images from the internet. The web tool for minors is called Take It Down, and it lets users attach a digital fingerprint called a hashtag or a hash value to specific intimate images and videos on their devices. And then in quotations, it says, when tech platforms sign up to participate, they are provided these hash values so they can detect and remove the imagery on their public or unencrypted sites and apps. This all happens without the image or video ever leaving a device or anyone viewing it. And like I said, you can look this up. It's called Take It Down. They do have a website. I will read that to you. Give me a sec. But like I say, if you just look up Take It Down, that's how I found it. It was very easy. And the website is Take It Down, all one word, .n as in Nancy, C as in cat, M as in mouse or Michael, E, C as in cat.org. So if you know anybody that maybe has been the victim of something like this, please let them, especially parents, let them be aware of something like this. Now, she also got into some really good programs, and this is where I'm going to disagree with Radiant Brit. And bless her heart for being so concerned about exploitation of children, or we all seen them, mommy bloggers. And I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but when you're exploiting young children and they have no say in it, right? Something to look at. And that's other things that she covers. But she had stated in this video that parents have to be on top of every single little detail that adolescents are accessing on their phone. Now, I'm a parent and my children are 28 and my youngest is 25. He has severe autism and he's much younger mentally than what most kids would be. So yes, you do have to be aware. But where I differed with her, and she did mention some apps if you want to look at them. One of them is called Bark, B-A-R-K. You can find it in most app stores. And I forget what the other one was. She was looking at the article that was covered. It was covered on best parental controls on CNN. Now, that, like I say, there was one that was called Kaspersky Save Kids. There's a whole bunch of them. Now, I did use Net Nanny with my youngest especially because there were things he would access and not understand why you cannot. It wasn't either age appropriate or whatever. So I did have to stay on top of it. But where I differed with, and let's face it, we've all been teenagers. If a teenager wants to do something, and I'm not saying kids are bad, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if they want to be able to do something, they're going to do it. So what I suggested, and I said, I'm not telling people how to parent or anything like that, and all children are different. But what I did with my own kids, and I still do, and we used to have everybody's kids at our house. Like a lot of kids didn't have great homes. And I always made it very clear that I wasn't there to be their friend. I would be in a parent capacity as well as my own children, but I made no topic off limits. And I used teachable moments, taught them that trust is not just a given. It's earned. And we built on these topics because I think part of this is, right, kids are going to do what they're going to do, especially the younger we are, the more invincible we feel. So I talked to them about certain things and topics that maybe most parents might not discuss or think that they're too young for. But if there was a teachable moment, I took it and we discussed it. And, say a kid does take some nude pictures, for example, they send it to a boyfriend or a friend and they break up or there's a fight and the person releases those videos or those pictures. Like I said, that's why I think the take it down is a great option. But the problem is, a lot of kids would be very afraid to tell their parents. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't overly permissive. And I certainly let my children, especially my eldest, who understood about consequences, that, if it wasn't going to harm him or ruin his life, I definitely stepped back and let him find out what the consequences are. Because we can tell somebody what the consequences are, but there's no teacher like experience. But I know for myself, I would have been terrified to go tell my parents. I wouldn't have told my parents. I would have done everything I could have to hide it from my parents. So that's what I'm talking about. So I wanted my kids to be able to come. And I also said to them, and I think we're right, I said, nobody is ever going to love you or care about you more than your own mother or father or both parents. And if you don't know something and you're asking your friends, they don't know any better than you do. So if you don't feel comfortable coming to me, then please discuss it with an adult that you trust and you love. I've been very lucky that the communication still remains open. No, again, every child is different, but I think we have to start this when our kids are young. I can't tell you how many friends I've had that haven't had the talk about the birds and the bees with their kids, for example, and were horrified that there were certain topics I would discuss with both at age appropriate levels and what have you. But my rule of thumb has always been that if I knew about it at a certain age, when it was the same age as, say, what my child was at, there's probably a good chance your kid knows about it 3 to 4 years earlier. So I wanted to talk about that because I think that's scary and I think it's a problem and I think it's happening. Hey, Ken, welcome. So now that I'm off of that, check it out, though. I thought the take it down was a really good idea, especially that. And again, every child is different. Every family is different. There are parents. Each parent is different. But there are options out there. The one thing I will mention before I get off this topic, for example, the Bark app. There was a father, she included an ad about saying he didn't want to see every text message. He didn't want to see this. He didn't want to see that, but he wanted to be informed, if there was bullying or there was talk about drugs or there was talk about this. But I don't even know how that app could work. You have to pay for it. But the problem is, kids, especially as teenagers, aren't under your thumb the whole time while you're an adult, or while they're living with you. And they're like, say, 16, 15, 14 years old. They're getting jobs. They're at school. They can create accounts that you don't even know about. And I don't know about y'all, but I have found that a lot of people, especially as parents, aren't really tech savvy. Some are incredible. But there's a lot of parents that have no idea what the latest app is out there, or the latest social media platform, or how kids are communicating. And like I say, bless her heart, Radiant Brit said, you have to know everything that's on that kid's phone. I don't think you're going to know. There's a big thing going on right now with a big YouTuber by the name of Colleen Ballinger. She's Miranda Sings. And she's done some very inappropriate things with children as of the age of anywhere from 12 to 15 online. And the kid that she tried to take down as a minor, Adam McIntyre, he even has admitted wholeheartedly that I have good parents. My parents tried to stay on top of things, but I was able to hide stuff, and kids can. So that's why I mentioned that I think it's important to start building trust and what consequences are and what can happen and what have you. It's not a perfect thing, but I guess you got to choose what's right for you. Ken says, I'm out at a restaurant. Very interesting. We'll listen to replay. Okay, welcome. Enjoy. Okay, now off my soapbox. I mentioned I was going to mention on the podcast, and I think it's important to mention. And maybe somebody will find this useful, either listening live or possibly in the replay. Or if you know somebody that has teenage children and you feel it might be pertinent, please share. And again, like I said, the I don't know who's saying hello. Somebody's saying hello on Facebook. It showed up on Facebook, but it didn't show up here. So if I missed you, hi. Sorry, I don't know who it is. I can't see your picture, but I see you on my phone. So I wanted to share. Let's talk about some spooky things now and some interesting, the paranormal. I do have to tell you guys, I watched a video. There's a few people I watch on YouTube. Love the Foreman brothers with Paranormal Nightmare. And the reason why I do, as I've mentioned them many times, is these guys have done it for over 12 to 14 years. There's three brothers, Josh, Rocky, and Sean. When they were small children, they were terrorized by the paranormal, especially Sean. Now, as adults, they use their own dime too. They go around and they help families all around the US. And they go to some pretty well-known haunted locations as well. And they try and help people and get rid of what's there. Hey, Kelly. Yeah, because Kelly, it just came up, Facebook user again. So if you like, I'm glad you told me it's Kelly. It just says, oh my, it's Kelly. Facebook must be acting up. Hello, Shannon. No, sometimes things don't show up here. It's just the way it is. If you head over to YouTube, you can go to my YouTube channel on the Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin, or if you go to the Facebook page, it's UFO Paranormal Radio or YouTube, I will see your comments. So I'm not sure why it's not showing me Kelly. But anyways, with the Foreman brothers, I was kind of horrified about this week's show. So they usually release an hour show of the investigation they've done a few weeks prior. And then usually on Saturdays, they go live and they show you what they're filming and what's going on. You're popping over to YouTube. Oh, Kevin Z Sun Dragon says, thanks for sharing. I do have friends with kids. Yeah, if it'll be helpful, ask them if it might be helpful, please share with them what I just talked about before, because it's not the same kind of spooky as paranormal, but real life can be really scary too. So that's why I decided to sort of start the show off with that. Okay, Kelly, you're popping over to YouTube. I'm sure we'll see you there. So back to the Foreman brothers. This investigation that they released, and if you guys are new here or you're listening, you've never heard my story, I'm pretty well versed in the paranormal, even though I work as quote unquote a light worker. And we lived in an extremely haunted house for 11 plus years, my previous home. We've shared our story on the Travel Channel's Paranormal Survivors, Season 4. It's Episode 9. It's called Demonic Hauntings. I do usually try and pin. I put a post together of some of the pictures we've released to the public, some really incredible A+++++ EVPs that were taken when I called in to a friend of the show, and Zach Mann, that's how I know him. Jason Bland with Paranormal Soup on Sunday nights on Facebook and YouTube. He's got a great show, great guests. It's a 3-hour show. It starts at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I used to call into a show all the time. And there's two clips one's from Halloween 2017. The other one is from Halloween. It was called the Spookathon. We happened to be on the same network at that time in 2018. And that one's pretty incredible. But the one from 2017 is mind-blowing. Back to the Foreman brothers. So this week's episode they just put out on Friday night. I have never even heard of something this terrible. This woman, I think she's a nurse, she was talking about. She's gone to university within the United States. She was working in the mental health facilities all around where she lives. I believe it was in Idaho. And she's never had mental health problems. She's not on any medication. But I guess for some reason, I think it was about 2 years ago, she'd never tried anything like this before. They pulled out a Ouija board. And whatever happened with that Ouija board, it was done, I believe it was numerous times during the day and sort of night. She developed one of the most severe attachments. I don't even want to say developed. I guess something attached itself to her that is so evil. She can't even drive. She's not able to work. She feels like she said it, she knows this energy is so strong. Like when she goes to the washroom, she feels like she needs to stand up like a man. There were so many things, but the thing that horrified me, she said this thing actually overtakes her. She cut off her own finger because it made her do it, she said. She seems perfectly lucid. She got a strange look in her eyes when you see her. Like I honestly wondered. She didn't do anything. She was calm, she was fine during the recording, but she had this look like you could almost feel and see like she wanted to hit Josh, because Josh is the one of the three brothers that's pretty powerful. He does all the house cleansings. The other two brothers help and teach the family how to continue the cleansings daily after they leave. But something that powerful that it made you cut off your own finger. It was a ring finger, I believe, on her right hand, and she showed it. I mean, it was nothing graphic, just her fingers missing. So she said they had to decide that she can't even cook anymore. She can't be around any knives or anything like that. And it was pretty crazy, some of the stuff that was picked up during the investigation. And what I like about these guys, they don't fake things. If nothing shows up or they get nothing, they get nothing. They're not going to create something just because they have a weekly kind of show. So that was pretty powerful. Rainbow Light Paranormal, there you are, Kelly. And Sandra says hi to Kelly. That's awesome. So that was one thing I watched. Then I don't usually watch these guys. I love when younger people come into a field. I think it's important. I think it continues on with whatever they're involved in. And there's a few younger people I watch on YouTube. One of them is the Paranormal Files with Colin Brown. And many times he investigates with his dad, Jeff. And his dad, I think, used to be an ophthalmologist, and now he does some paranormal investigating. And he's actually very empathic, but he also investigates with his brother-in-law. What's his name? Connor. I had to think for a minute. Connor. So the only thing I get is they get really, really, really hyper when something happens. Like if there's one of their devices goes off or whatever. But then I have to remind myself, like, it looks like the lights are kind of on, like there's this greenish cast glow, right? We can see everything, but it's actually pitch black. So these guys will yell like, it's usually Colin. He gets super hyper. Anyways, I also watch Twin Paranormal from time to time. These guys have teamed up with the Paranormal Files. Twin Paranormal this week I watched, though, and they went to the Diablo Asylum. It's somewhere in the Midwest in the U.S. I want to say Idaho again, but I'm not sure if it is. They'd never been there before, but apparently the activity is insane in this place. I don't think they fake things either, but they get so overreactive to stuff happening. They had some crazy EVPs and activity going on in this place. So that's something to check out. But I also help produce for the network. We have a new show on the network, and well, many, but on Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have a really amazing host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and she's a medium, an intuitive. She's done some paranormal investigations and what have you. She's a fellow Canadian, and she had on her show on Friday, oh God, please let me remember his name, Rick McCallum. He's a Hollywood stunt person. He's an author. He's a paranormal investigator. He did quite a few of the Friday the 13th movies. He's friends with Kane. Is it Hodder, I think is his last name? He played Jason in most of the movies. So it was a really interesting show. But I was helping produce, and I was also busy while I was watching the show. I was doing some resin work. So I had headphones in, and I don't usually. And I'm sitting there about 4 to 6 feet away from my screen, and I have the headphones in, and all of a sudden I hear, almost thought it sounded like somebody sucking something up through a straw. So I knew well enough. I look up, nobody's drinking anything. I can see the screen. So I marked the time. I remembered what they were saying, and I went back, and I've uploaded the EVP. I'm going to play it for y'all, and you let me know what you think. So give me one sec here. I don't want to bring in, I was going to bring in my other phone, but we'll do it this way. So I've uploaded it. I want to see what you all think of this. So it's and I had headphones on. You don't need headphones to hear this EVP, believe me. Okay, so let me play it for you. Hang on. Not long.
Attachments? Are they coming home with you? Have you had attachments?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Not a good place to be in.
Are you able to hear that? So when she asks, have you had attachments? You hear kind of a, and then it almost sounded to me like somebody was sucking something up through a straw. But the more I've listened to it and the more I've had, when I listen with headphones, it actually is a growl. I'm going to play it again and you guys see what you think, okay? So give me a sec. I got to find it again. Here, we'll play it again. So I did capture, before I replay it, a little bit of the conversation before. Then the it's only 12 seconds long because I clipped it. Then there's the EVP. And then I put just a little bit of the conversation afterwards to distinguish that they were talking. You guys can also watch this video yourself. It's about, if you're watching it, it's on UPRN or UFO Paranormal, our YouTube channel. I believe it's on, Carrie has a group on Facebook, Carrie Shellhorn. I forget what the rest of it is, but you can find her on there. You can find the group. But YouTube's probably the easiest way to find it. And you'll be able to find it. Like I said, it's about, I think it's 1 hour and 12 minutes and about 48 seconds into the video. Just let me see your comments before I replay it. Okay, so yeah, Sandra, that's how I noticed, right? Either slurping a straw or toilet flushing. That's what I'm saying. So when I was listening, there's a groan right before it, okay? I didn't notice the groan, but I had the headphones and I had my head down. I'm like, I hear this slurping and I'm looking up and I go, who's drinking with a straw? And I look, nobody's drinking anything. And I went, holy crap, that's got to be an EVP. Yeah, Michelle, it does sound like a growl, especially towards the end of it. But listen, right before, you're going to hear like a man growling. And then, let's see, Shannon says, then that sounded like Hannibal Lecter made after about talking about eating the liver with a nice Chianti and some fava beans. Hang on. Okay, I'll play it again. Hang on, I gotta find it here. Okay.
Attachments? Are they coming home with you? Have you had attachments?
Yeah.
No. Not a good place to be in.
So I don't know if you guys are able to hear that. So she says, have you had attachments? And then you hear, like I can't do the voice. And then it sounded at first like somebody, exactly what you said, Sandra, either slurping a straw or a toilet flushing. I had my partner listen to it too. He thought it was something like underwater. But if you get a chance, I'm probably going to upload. You heard the groan, Sandra said. Okay. Because I didn't hear the groan at first, right? Because I wasn't really paying attention. I was listening. So I was listening to the whole show. So don't get me wrong. I was paying attention, but I wasn't glued in front of the screen like this, right? I was listening as I was doing something else. It was the sound I heard, like the straw sound. And then, like I said, the more I re-listened to it, I went, holy crap, that was actually a growl. So I don't know. That was pretty crazy. So what I did was I messaged, okay, so Kevin says, yep, growl. Then this, well, no, if not quite, Kevin. So what you hear, I'm going to play it again. You're going to hear her say, have you had attachments? And you're going to hear, so I guess you could kind of say it sounds like a growl, or like a growl, I guess, but more like a moan, like a deep moan. And then it'll sound like somebody's slurping a straw. But as you listen to it, it's actually a growl, I think. Not that I'm telling people what to hear. So Heather says, sounds like gargling marbles, totally a growl that you heard. Yeah, so she's going to say, have you had attachments or something to that effect? Then you're going to hear, then you're going to hear the straw slurpy / growl sound. So I'll play it one more time. Hang on.
Attachments? Are they coming home with you? Have you had attachments?
Yeah.
No. Not a good place to be in.
Dragon says, yeah, groan. And then Heather says, sounds, yeah, like gargling marbles, totally a growl that you heard. Yeah, so don't get me wrong, guys. We've had EVPs with this type of network and who we have on, right? I used to get the Michelle says sounds like a dinosaur. Oh, I know, Shannon, you read my mind. So Shannon says, remember all the sounds we heard whenever you and Kevin, well, my other co-host, meaning David Hansel, were doing the thing at the foot of the bed. We had a crazy show. And Shannon did add almost every time you were both on. Well, we had one show, it was a couple months ago, and I've always forget to ask Howie Odell. He's not here today, he's probably working, but he has the Riff Network, because I know he said, please tell me there's a replay of this. I'm dying to listen to this, and I've forgotten to ask him. I should probably go back in there, because we think there were all kinds of EVPs that night. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but it was crazy. We had all kinds of weird sounds and whatever. And then some of you may remember my co-host. We used to do, I think we called it Infinite Inquisition. She had 2 different shows, but the one we did together here on this network, and we used to do it on a previous network together. We used to get EVPs all the time. And Seraphine is the name of my previous co-host, and she collects haunted items. And I can tell you that I didn't even know this till we talked about it after one show. She has all the haunted dolls behind her in her office when we would broadcast. And one of them, I swore, as it was sitting there, its hand kind of like, not that obvious, but it would be like, I'm trying to hold up so you guys can see here. Let me get rid of the comment. And the hand would be just sitting there, and it looked like it kind of moved. But what I noticed about the face during that show is the eyes seemed like they blinked on the doll, and the mouth kind of moved. And I found out after the show that doll's face was painted. There's no way for that doll's face to have blinked, but it did. We went back and looked at it. So, and then my previous network used to get all kinds of EVPs. So I know there's lots of different shows here on the network too that get EVPs. But I thought it was kind of cool, because I haven't caught one that clear and that loud. No, puppy, don't come over. No, my dog's deciding she's coming over to say hello, guys. Sorry, down you go. So it was pretty cool, though, especially when Carrie Lynn, the host, and Rick, I think he works with Scotland Paranormal. He's been all over the world with paranormal stuff. And she happens to ask him, have you ever had attachments? And it's all, I'm not saying he has attachments. All I'm saying is something popped in to let its presence be known. So Michelle said, kind of reminded you of Jurassic Park sound effects. Yeah, kind of in a way. No, you have to remember too, this show was live. So it's not like it had been pre-planned, or he was playing anything or she was playing anything. This was caught live. So that's why I always find that that's so interesting and a lot more believable when something is recorded live. So neither one of them heard that noise, by the way, either. I know they didn't, because we have a private chat with StreamYard, and I left it in the private chat, but nobody saw it. So I actually made a comment in the comment section and said, check the private messages. I think I heard something in the background. And then the guest went in, he knew about the private chat because guests and hosts can see it. And he asked about it. So, and Michelle says, no, was saying it sounded like, oh, no, I know. Oh, God, Michelle, I hope I didn't make it sound like you were saying, you reminded me when you said that. You didn't say anything, and I believe you that it sounded like that. But for anybody listening, say on the replay or something, I wanted to let them know that, yeah, it was live. So, yeah, like you said, Michelle, wasn't saying it was from that. No, I know you weren't. I know you weren't. But sometimes when you guys say things in the comments, it reminds me, because I should have said that and reminded people it was live. And Z Sun Dragon says, yeah, it sounds legit. So I don't know what it was, but it was pretty cool nonetheless. Hang on, I'm going to grab a drink here. So have you guys run into any paranormally type things this week? Have you heard anything spooky? The one thing like I said, I'm addicted to Nuke's Top 5. Always I'm going to be. I know a lot of people may not be their favorite, but I like it because he tells you not what to think. And again, I'm not telling you guys what to think with that EVP either. But to me, that's what it sounded like. I don't know what it was. Like I said, the first thing I did when I heard that noise was look up, like, is somebody slurping a drink or something? And nobody was. And I didn't hear the moan at the beginning either until I listened back. And how interesting is that the host and the guest did not hear this noise. I just heard it while I had headphones on. So kind of interesting, isn't it? Like, here I am live with you. Maybe we don't hear an EVP going through, but maybe somebody listening on the replay might hear an EVP, right? Because that's kind of what happened to me. I wasn't part of the show. I just happened to have headphones on and heard it. So they come through. They probably come through a lot more often than what we think they do. I can tell you on my previous network, we used to do, again, I used to work quite a bit with Seraphine, and she does a lot more haunted, dark stuff, whereas I sort of did more light worker stuff, and we met in the middle. But we used to do an all-female, usually paranormal panel on one of her shows. I think it was on a Monday night, Mondays and Thursdays. So we get a bunch of girls that were into the paranormal and chit-chat about that stuff. I can tell you we got all kinds of EVPs, including one that sounded very similar to my partner in life here. And the language and you can hear it. I don't have any copies of my old shows. Let's just say it wasn't run like this network is. That's why I've been here so long. I love this network. But yeah, it was saying dropping F-bombs and all kinds of things. But I also used to sit in the most active part of my house because it was in the basement and it was sort of away from any noises in the house and stuff. So when I would podcast, I would be in that area. And if Zach's still here, he can definitely tell you when I used to call into Paranormal Soup, it would be through Skype video. If you go back through some of the old videos of Paranormal Soup, I think was Jason's YouTube channel, you can see some of the stuff. And the thing always was, I think I actually mentioned it in the 2018 EVP when I called in for Halloween. I said, at least nothing broke this time when I called in, because I have called in before to Jason's show when all of his sound equipment blew, like things would break when I would call in. I'm not kidding. And I can't make this stuff up. It would happen. So Z Sun Dragon, you say paper shuffling in the office upstairs at work as I was heading to the washroom. So poke my head in, nobody there. That happens often. So is there a long history of this office being around, or like, meaning, many people pass through those doorways, or do you know maybe a little bit of history of the land? Like, would it explain maybe why you have some unusual activity? I'm not going to call it paranormal because we don't know. Well, my own partner said to me today, I don't know, because it didn't happen in front of me. And it's not that I disbelieve him, because he is a big skeptic, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything. But he said he came outside about 2 hours ago. He goes, holy crap, I think we've got a ghost in here again. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I was watching TV. All the bottles went flying off the coffee table. So I think he had some water bottles and something else. No, I didn't see it. He said that the animals wouldn't go anywhere near the living room. I don't know if it happened or not, but we do still get activity here from time to time. It does happen. We do get some passerbys that drop in, because any of you that are familiar with the paranormal, which most of you I think are, that are in the channel or in the chat here that I can see, you know that when you run into things with the paranormal, a lot of it doesn't forget your name. It does not. It does not forget who you are or your energy. And as I always say, Spirit's always shown me that the way the other side sees us is like all human beings, because they don't use names on that side. There is no space and time, right? It's all about energy. So we look like, from them, from the visual they gave, or to them, the visual they gave me is like these little tiny pinpricks of light. But those of us that utilize the gifts that we have, and I believe we all do, but those of us that use them and are able to communicate and recognize we're communicating with the other side, we almost look like, those old horror movies where people are driving down a dark highway and all of us, there's no lights, and all of a sudden this big flashing light is up ahead that says vacancy, no vacancy with the motel. That's what we look like. But it's not just the positive that can see that flashing sign, if you will, so can the negative. So whatever, and if it wants to communicate with you, would easily be able to recognize energetically that you can hear, feel, see, or communicate with them. And so Z Sun Dragon says, when I asked him about the office where he's working, he said, oh yes, even people that work there passed on. So yeah, that's what I was asking. I kind of felt that as soon as I read that about the paper shuffling. When you said you said paper shuffling in the office upstairs at work as I was heading to the washroom. So you poked your head in and nobody was there. And you said that happens often. Hey, Robin from Paranormal. And then we've got Susan Long. Welcome. And so Shannon then says, I told Sean, that's her hubby, to leave me alone and stop trying to tickle me the other day. And Sean was on the other side of the room. Yeah, I've had that happen in my previous home. And then Z Sun Dragon says, I am so used to things like that, though it doesn't faze me. If something would get thrown across the room, then yeah, maybe. And Michelle says, time slip sounds. I'm not quite sure what you mean. I'm sure you're saying something, but I'm just not quite attaching it. Can you tell me what you mean a little bit by that, Michelle? Because I love to talk about time and time dimensions and portals. And so, Robin, I have to play this again. We have a few people and Susan. I was producing on Friday on the network. We have a newer show. It was actually her 13th show. So she was calling it Friday the 13th. And her name's Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. It's called Spirit Switchboard. And I was producing and I had headphones on, and she had as a guest Rick McCallum. He's a Hollywood stunt person. He was talking about having worked with Clint Eastwood and a whole bunch of Hollywood people. He actually did Clint Eastwood's accent or his voice. It was pretty funny. And he's worked very closely with Kane Hodder, who played Jason in the Friday the 13th series. He got into quite some detail about, because I think Carrie Lynn asked him what was one of the bloodiest scenes that you acted in. It was quite the story. Oh, with the paper shuffling. I'll get back to that. So while I was listening, and I know it's repeating for some of you, but we've got some people that just tuned in. So while I was listening to the show, I had headphones in and I was working on a few resin pieces. So I was about 4 to 6 feet away from my device. So I wasn't looking directly at the screen, but I could see it very clearly. And as Carrie Lynn asks, do you have an attachment, or have you ever had an attachment? I heard some interesting noises, so I'm going to play it for you. Okay, Rick. Well, I'm going to talk to you after this. Well, actually, I connected with him, but I'm going to talk to you about this after Robin. So Robin says Rick is a good friend of his. He has been on your podcast a few times. Okay, then you'll be interested to hear this. Definitely, Robin. I wondered why I needed to replay this for you. I will get back to the paper shuffling, Michelle. Thanks for clarifying that. So this is what picked up as Carrie Lynn asked him if he's ever had attachments. So there's a little bit for context, a little bit of conversation, not very long, it's only about 12 seconds. Then what I believe is an EVP, and just a little bit of conversation afterwards. So hang on.
Attachments, are they coming home with you? Have you had attachments?
Yeah.
No. Not a good place to be in.
So I don't know if you could hear that, Robin. And I know we've got, Heather. Sorry, Heather, I saw your comment. It just popped up now for some reason. I don't know why. So we've got Heather and we have Susan. So I don't know if you heard that or not, Robin. But Carrie Lynn was asking Rick if he's had attachments. And what we believe, we sort of chit-chatted about it. I played it a few times before you popped in. And I know Susan was just in. There's been a few people just dropped in. It almost I did not hear, there sounds like a almost like a moan right after Carrie Lynn asks Rick if he's ever had attachments. And then what got me to look, and neither one of them heard it through the podcast. I just heard it with headphones, and this was all live. I thought, who the heck is drinking something so loud with a straw? And I looked up, I could see the screen. Nobody was drinking anything. So I marked the time and went back. But as I've listened more closely with headphones, it wasn't anybody drinking with a straw. It's a growl. So see what you think about it if you heard it, Robin. Yeah, Robin goes, there was something. I'll play it one more time. So listen closely. I have the clip anyways, Robin. I'll send it to you after if you want, and you can have a listen. But I am telling you, especially with headphones, but you don't need them. And I realize it's a small little clip, but I am telling you, it was clear as day when I heard it. And again, they didn't hear it while they were live. I just heard it having headphones on. So give me 1 sec. Gotta find it here. Okay.
Attachments? Are they coming home with you? Have you had attachments?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Not a good place to be in.
It's not long. Okay, it's not long at all, but there's definitely something there. Definitely. Okay, let me go back to these comments here. So Michelle, I had asked her to clarify. I wasn't sure what she meant. I knew it would be something interesting and good, and it is. So she was referring to Zison's Dragons. He had shared that he was on his way to the bathroom at his office and he heard paper shuffling, and he looked in, nobody was there, and he said it happened often. So Michelle was suggesting possibly maybe time slips. Then Zison Dragon said, or a glitch. And then Michelle again clarified, because I had asked her, she meant about the paper shuffling. Now Heather added, I know my dad visits. I hear the same noises when he was living. So you're going to have to clarify, what noises are you referring to? Do you mean paper shuffling or those kind of noises, Heather, or what are you hearing? So like I said, it was just kind of cool because it's pretty, like a lot of times EVPs are kind of, well, I don't know if it's not really electronic voice phenomena, but that's what we sort of label it all under, right? Unknown noises that sort of come from nowhere. But well, I guess it kind of is, because it kind of sounds like a moan. But that's what made me look, because I thought, who the heck's slurping something through a straw? And I look up, nobody's drinking, and right away. And it probably was Spirit that said, no, you need to mark the time and go back to that. So I did. And luckily it was recorded, because I know there's been EVPs that sometimes come through, especially during a live, that people may hear possibly in the audience, but the people talking, say the host, and if there's a guest, they don't hear it, but it doesn't get picked up by the recording. So I don't know who. Oh, so let's see. So Robin says, I thought I heard we go. Okay, well, I'll take, you know what, Robin, I'll send it to you. Like I said, it's not, if it was private or something, no, I would never send it out, but it's on the network. So plus it gives Carrie Lynn's show a plug. You guys got to check it out. She's got great guests on there, great interviews. And it was kind of cool. It was her 13th show. She does every Friday. And she had Rick on with the Friday the 13th theme. And then, you get something kind of interesting like that. Hi, Kelly Durant. Welcome. So Heather says, okay, Heather, gotcha. So she clarified. She said she knows. I'm going to go back to your comment just for a sec. So she said, hang on. I know my dad visits. I hear the same noises when he was living. So she says, now I know what you mean. You hear the same noises now that you would have heard when you were living together. He's now since passed. And my deepest sympathy to you about that, and anybody else who's lost. We've all lost somebody we love, and I send you healing and love and hugs to anybody, including you as well, Heather. So she said, I would hear the sounds of walking down the hallway, knocking on my door. Sometimes I've heard my name being called. So when somebody tells me something like that, you guys can let me know what you think or what you might do. But I usually ask people, how did you feel when you hear this? Because you'll get some people saying, oh my God, they think that's terrible. It's paranormal activity. It's a ghost. But not necessarily. Like you said, Heather, your dad makes the same noises since he's passed, to let you know, I'm here, I'm around, and you're hearing the same type of sounds you would have heard if he was walking down the hallway when he was there. Knocking on your door, or sometimes you'll hear your name being called. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So, like I said, I always do say this, actually, that we all think life is a big thing, and it is. Don't get me wrong, it is. But when you open the door to the paranormal, and to me, the paranormal is just anything that's not within the norm, unexplained. It's like literally opening the door to infinite possibilities and twists and turns. And it's so infinitesimally, I can't even hardly say that word, huger than what most people just think regular life is to me. Like, I'll be learning till the day I die. I swear I will be. And I won't even probably know a smidge compared to what's out there, the things that are going on. Heather said, these things are not all bad. It used to freak you out, but not anymore. That's cool. Well, the one way you can tell too, say you are freaked out, if it's your loved one, mind you, some people have loved ones that are real tricksters in life. So they might come through with a bit of sense of humor. But I always say, if it's somebody that is there in a good capacity and is there in love, right? It's a beloved, like you said, your dad or somebody, you knew well and you loved and they loved you. I always say that anything in the light or for the good is not going to purposely scare their loved ones and continue to scare them. So say you experience something, you can say to things even out loud, like, stop, please, you're scaring me. And I always think if somebody's there in a good capacity, they're going to stop, because they're not going to come in just to scare you. Most are just coming in to let you know, hey, I'm still around, I'm doing well, and just thought I'd let you know I'm around. So Michelle says, I guess it could be scary or comforting, those sounds. Yeah, but that's why I always ask people, how did it make you feel? And I love that Heather was so honest and she shared her thoughts. She said these things are not all bad. It used to freak her out, but not anymore. And she knows what it means. And if anything, like you said, Michelle, sometimes it can be scary, but then it could be, it's my cat that's meowing. She's singing the song of her people. Of course, because I'm live. It's not an EVP. It's my cat outside the door wanting to come in. And she doesn't want in my room. I know whose room she wants in. She wants in my son's room. Go lay down. Yes, I know the cat is out there. Thank you. Go lay down, please. Now my dog's coming to tell me. Go lay down. Oh my God, Shannon. Yes. You brought it up, so I'm going to mention it. Like Shannon says, Lori, my dad had a great sense of humor. Her dad does have a good sense of humor. And I'm going to say still does, because every now and then, and David and I are trying to do this on TikTok, but we're going to try and do it on different platforms. We try, if our schedules allow, to go live on Wednesday nights. We go do free one-question readings. We'll do a bit of teaching or talk about the paranormal. And it's just to let people know about our show on Thursday nights too as well. I also do this on my own when I get a bit of time. I will do free one-question readings. And one night, like Shannon, I don't even think I was doing a reading for you. Maybe I was. Her dad came through so strong. I could hear his laugh. He has the best laugh. I could see him. Like, he had such strong energy and beautiful energy and such a powerful presence. It was so incredible. It really, and I've never forgotten about that either, Shannon. It was so cool. So yes, I see Shannon's next question or comment. And does anyone else hear a cat meowing? So now you guys know I'm honest. I could be lying going, oh my God, yeah, I do think I hear a cat. Oh crap, I hope we don't have a cat ghost. Unfortunately, no, it's my bratty cat singing the song of her people. And Heather, thanks for sharing that too. She says, I tell them hello and love you. And you know what? Our loved ones can always hear us on the other side. They can. So I always tell people, never stop talking. A lot of times they never say anything in a reading, and their loved one will say, please tell them thank you for whatever the phrase may be. Sometimes they'll tell me, or thank you for continuing to speak with me. I hear you. And so we never die. We never ever do. We lose these bodies and we just continue on. So we will see all our loved ones. And I'd never, when it's our turn, when I say to go back home, and of course, I'm not telling people what to believe. People have to believe what they have to believe, if there is an afterlife or not. But I do believe there is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we go on forever, just from the things I've seen working as a nurse, studying near-death experiences for almost 40 years. There's no way that there's not an afterlife in my mind. So Shannon says LMAO about the cat. And Z Sun Dragon says, yes, if you are open, you can sense good, bad, or even playful spirit. I'm going to get to Robin's comment in just a second, but let's talk about that for a second, because I forget who I was saying that to this weekend. But, I've often said too, though, I don't care how sensitive you are or how incredible you are about picking up if there's spirit there or somebody's energy or what. We're all human and we're not 100% infallible. It's another thing I'll say. I'm very honest with people when I do readings and energy work, and I tell them I'm not 100% right always. I can tell you that with one of my friends, and if she gave me the lottery numbers, that's not something we would do, but she gave me the lottery numbers and said, go buy a ticket, I'd buy a ticket. We have worked on a few missing children cases, and one of them we hit the nail on the head. Both of us got identical same thing, and it was right on. Another case we worked on, we weren't even close. Now, to me, we talked about it. I think we picked up on possibly a missing teenager, because that was the age group we were looking for, but maybe not the one we were looking for. Maybe it was another teenager that needed some help and some assistance, because again, we tell each other very little. And then I swear to God, everybody's driving at crazy speeds outside. Ghost car outside. No, it's not. It was some idiot driving too quickly. Anyways, we tell each other very little. And then we try and connect with the child that's missing or a guide or something. And then we reconvene and we share with each other what we get. So that's my thoughts why we picked up. Like, she was even talking to this teenager. My whole point is, okay, with feeling energy, if you are dealing with something, let's put it this way, that is older than time, not even centuries, like millennia old, and you're one tiny little human, right? I do believe that there are spirits out there that can mask their energy, and we've seen it time and again where people will communicate and thinking they're dealing with something good, especially those that maybe aren't that well versed with sensing energy, but it can happen to anybody. Now, am I saying can it happen all the time? I think that when we're good at sensing energy, we can pick it up. But what I'm saying is, if you have something that's being very, very deceptive and very clever and very old and very well practiced at it, I think it can fool some people. So let's go back to these comments here. So Robin says, keep an eye on the time here. Any sounds I hear when on an investigation don't scare me. They fascinate me and make me want to go towards the sound to see if I can capture the source. Yes, but also, Robin, I believe you're really, really intuitive as well, knowing you the way I do, and have some mediumistic abilities as well. So, but I hear what you're saying, right? If you're going to be paranormal investigating, you're going to want to be, I would hope, if you're doing it, you're going to want to be capturing some evidence and documenting some sort of evidence of the afterlife, whether it's sounds, whether shadows, mists, whatever it may be, right? But because most people I know that do paranormal investigation, yeah, you are going to go investigate what the sound is because you want to find out where did it come from. It can, say you are dealing with something intelligent. Can it repeat it? Can it, like, you weren't here yet, Robin, but I was talking about some of the people I watch on YouTube and Twin Paranormal, their investigation. That was crazy communication that they were having with whatever was at this Diablo asylum. Like, this was definitely intelligent. But after a while, okay, I kept listening to this and stuff, and it was almost like it only had so many phrases it could use. It was very threatening, but it repeated a lot of different things, and I don't think it was the ghost box they were using. Now, the voice in there was pretty darn creepy, and I didn't hear them say what device they were using, but the voice literally sounded like Lord of the Rings, my precious. The name is just forgiven. I know he was Smeagol, but I forget what his name was when he was the creature. The voice kind of sounded like that a bit, But then when they were in the part where apparently there was, now they said demon, this is what was reported in the basement many, many times before them. The ghost box, the voice, like really, really, really changed. Like they were freaking out, going like, what the heck is going on with this voice box? And it wasn't the type, because a lot of ghost equipment, when you're communicating, usually uses the same type of voice signature. Not always, but it can. So this one kept sounding like, oh my God, why did that just skip my mind what his name was? Oh, it's going to drive me nuts. Thank you. Sandra just wrote Gollum. Okay, so it kind of reminded me of Gollum from Lord of the Rings. And how do I remember his human name, but I can't remember his character name out of Lord of the Rings? The voice kind of sounded like that to me. And then when they got in the basement, and I don't think these guys fake things either. I really don't. I've watched them enough. You can usually tell when people fake stuff, right? And like to me, I have a lot of respect for somebody that even goes to a really well-known place and they don't get anything and they've been there for 8 hours, because sometimes that can happen. There's no guarantees that you're going to get, activity in a notoriously well-known haunted place. Sometimes it happens. I have respect for people that'll tell you, like, we didn't get anything, so we're not going to fake that we got something when we didn't. So let me go up here. I love when you guys make comments like this, especially when you're doing a show by yourself. So Michelle says, what's your thoughts on transplants? Oh, we can talk about that. I know lots about transplants. So what's your thoughts on transplants? I was told when you have another's organs, they don't move on until that person passes. Let me just read a few more comments and I'll answer it. Now, again, I don't know everything, but I will tell you from personal experience what I know. So Z Sun's Dragon says, yes, I agree. Never know for sure, but a general feeling can usually happen. Agreed, Z Sun Dragon, when it comes to what we're dealing with on the other side. But I have seen people who have been fooled. And again, we don't always know. Like the thing that was in my house before, my previous home, this started with I'm going to say a lucid dream. I remember it like it happened 10 minutes ago, and it was about 15, 16 years ago. And with this man in a tree that was in my front yard in my previous home, and then identifying that he was a demon, giving me his name, giving me the spelling of his name and his animal form. And I was raised Roman Catholic. I was forced to go to church, forced to go to a Roman Catholic school. Don't get me wrong, I'm not well versed in the Bible. But I looked for this name. Like I really, really did. I'd never heard this name before. And I kind of let it go. And all heck did break loose after the stream, by the way. But then I was helping somebody else with some activity. It was about 5 or 6 years later. And what they thought they had heard a name in a dream, that they were being asked to, their words were, invoke it. And did I know if this was something demonic or not? And I said, well, that's not my field of expertise, but let me have a look for you. I literally almost fell off my chair because on I found it on one page on one site, the name that they had given me, but there was a name I had been given in my dream years before, exact spelling, exact animal form, everything this thing told me in the dream was right there on paper. So I don't know, but I'm still not even 100% convinced that it really was a demon, right? Because now again, just because people say something doesn't mean it's so. And what I'm trying to say is most people that supposedly work with these type of energies will tell you that demons will not give you its name and its spelling. But how else did I get this? How else was I told this? Like, was it a trickster spirit posing? I don't know. All as I know is it was very evil, very negative, smelt horrific, had enough power to throw a 175-pound man 15 feet across the kitchen, and many other things. So it was powerful, whatever the heck it was. Okay, I said I was going to go back to the transplant question, but just let me read a few more comments and I'm going to go back to it. Actually, we'll read those in a minute. I'm going to talk about Michelle's question because I think it's a really good one. Hang on, I went too far, Michelle. I got to find it. Hang on. Michelle, you always ask the best question. You guys all do and have great comments. But Michelle, that was a really good question, I think, that you asked. She said, what's your thoughts on transplants? I was told when you have another's organs, they don't move on until that person passes. I have never heard that. And again, could it be possible? Yes. But we are not our bodies, okay? We are immortal, everlasting energy / if you will, souls. Okay. So when we have past lives, we don't just come as humans. I was once told you can never come as an angel or an animal or anything like that. I've met people and have read things and experienced things. No, I've never been an angel, never been a bug or an animal. That's not what I'm saying. But I've encountered enough to let me know that the things I've heard have resonated enough to let me know that, yeah, anything's possible. So, but what happens when we die, right? We don't need our body anymore. It's almost like every life we go into, we're sort of leasing a car, if you will. So our body, we're not even really who we are in this human form versus who we are when we go back home, for example, or go to heaven, pass away, whatever you want to call it. So could somebody possibly not pass on when their organs have been transplanted? I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't think it's the norm. There's the ghost cat again. So I think you let her in. Yeah, now the meowing will stop. Anyways, could somebody stay here? Depending how they guess they lost their life. I mean, some people do stay here. Maybe they want revenge. Maybe they want to see that justice is served or whatever it may be. But what I have seen with organ transplants and even blood transfusions is the recipient of these products, whether it be blood or it be an organ, that they start having memories of things that they've never had before. They start dreaming of people and things and places they've never been before. I've even seen people develop things like allergies and things that they never had before. So with everything being energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed, that makes a lot of sense. Say somebody gets a heart transplant and has all these memories that they never had before, because what are thoughts? Energy. And right, the energy goes through our whole body. So that energy could still be attached to the organ or even the blood. I mean, they call blood the life force, right? So there could be things like that attached. Then you get into, say, and I keep going back to a heart, but a heart transplant, they have looked at this, and I believe, don't quote me because I could not quote the article right now, but I have seen and read, and it makes sense, that they found that within the heart, there were microscopic traces of things called the cones and rods in your eye that help you see. I've also know that there are some of those traces of cells where the third eye is supposed to be located, right? So we discover new things every day. So those are my thoughts on organ transplants and things like blood transfusions and things like that. I'm not going to say it's not possible, Michelle, because it could very well be. But all I'll say again is we are not our bodies. It's just what we're using to be here in this experience in this lifetime right now. I hope that makes sense. So we got lots of good comments down here. So hang on. I'm going to go back a bit. When Shannon says, when I saw the man in black at work, he was at least 8 feet tall and had a long cloak. I could hear brushing against the floor. I knew he was coming for one of my patients. I charged into the room like a mama bear and yelled at him to leave. Not doing this today. A few moments later, I realized what I had done, and it freaked me out after. Okay, so why did it freak you out after? Just asking why. And what do you think it was, Shannon? Because most of the people I know here, I do, that are in the chat. So most of you, well, I think everybody has gifts and intuitiveness and things like that. I really do. But what did you think possibly it was? Just asking out of curiosity. Obviously, in that moment, without thinking about it, it was you felt very protective and it needed to leave. So it's hard to say what it was. I have seen pictures in hospitals of black things on patients' chests. Like I could go on and on with some of the pictures I've seen. There's a really famous case caught on a security camera of a very disabled young girl who had pneumonia. I believe she was about 11 or 12, and the parents were told that there wasn't much time left. And so everybody was praying for this little girl. She'd been on the pediatric unit quite a bit. And there was a nurse. I think they had like cameras. She was in ICU, like the PICU, pediatric ICU. And so they had cameras in each room. And the nurse noticed this glowing humanoid sort of winged creature, very bright, bright light outside this little girl's bedroom, like room, not bedroom, hospital bed. And so she popped her head up over the monitor and she couldn't see anything. And she kept looking at the camera and was still seeing this. Apparently, as we will do as nurses, as Shannon will tell you when we're working on a floor, is, hey, come and take a look at this. Am I crazy? Like, are you seeing this? A whole bunch of them were seeing it. One of them actually took pictures and some video footage of it. And supposedly, after this apparition, this little girl made a miraculous recovery within 12, 14 hours and was discharged a day or two later. And she's still here today. So was it an angel? I'm collecting stories right now, and I've said it many times, and I'm still working on it. 3 books. One will be the paranormal experience. One is our journey through traveling the autism road, if you will. And by sharing our story, I'm hoping it might help others who are going through other experiences. But the third one, I'm collecting stories from nurses, mainly nurses, but also first responders, of incredible, miraculous things that we see as people leave this earth and transition, as I always call it, going back home or passing, whatever you want to call it. And I've already received quite a few really incredible, unexplainable stories. And who knows, I might even think about including some of these type of stories, like what you shared too, Shannon, because we do see things as nurses. We're the ones at the bedside, right? We're the ones that are there usually when somebody is leaving earth, if you will, passing. So Robin says, I found that once I found out who my guides are and their names, my connection has gone through the roof. So good. And that's so cool. Now, when I first started this journey, I was like most people who are many years ago, and you want to know, I used to ask, like, what angels are around me, and when am I going to open my third eye? Like, how do I open it? And what are the names of my guides? Hang on, I got to grab a drink here. Hi, Joy. I just saw you. Welcome. I have since discovered for myself, I'm not saying everybody else has to do this, that because they don't use names on the other side, I had one person I was working with, very intuitive, and just had connected with a main guide that came when times were really troublesome for them. And they shared the name, and they said their guide had told them, yeah, sure, I'll agree to that, because if you tried to say my name, it would take you 3 human days to say it. That's how many letters are in it. I believe them. But my whole point is that we don't go by names when we go on the other side. Like, everybody just sort of knows each other, again, by who you are energetically. So that's kind of how I work with my guides. I just know energetically who's there and by what they feel like. Do I know what a few of them look like. I do have a name that was always around me ever since I was a little girl. I've never heard this name before. Anytime I've shared it with somebody, they're like, yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that name before either, but I believe it was one of my guides. So when I'm mentoring and working with people, and you want to know the name of your guides, what I always suggest is, when it's quiet, there's nobody else around, and you can kind of just sort of get yourself centered, like clear out that you got to go for groceries in a couple of hours, or that, you got to get that car repaired and the oil changed and everything else. If you can, just clear your mind with a few deep breaths. You don't have to say it out loud, but you can say it within the mind's eye and ask, who are my guides? Or who is my guide? Who is with me today? Who is with me right now? However you want to ask it. And then listen. Whatever name you hear, accept that as that name. And the reason why I say that is because whoever is with you and whatever name you do hear, they will know that every time, even if you hear the name God forbid, Bob or Susan, every time you think of or you refer to Bob, your guide, or Susan, your guide, they're going to know and you're going to know, right? It helps make that connection, like Robin said. And then when you make that connection, that's how, yes, it can very much open up the connection, because they now know that you know who they are, and then you can work further together. Your guides will hold classes with you. They will do whatever you want to help you succeed. They've made that agreement to be there with you to help you achieve, for whatever reason you have made the decision to incarnate into this particular lifetime. And nobody's here by accident. So I hope that makes sense. So Michelle says, hang on. Excuse me. It's also interesting that sometimes they take on the donors things. And when, so you said a Tibetan monk told you about the transplants and not moving on, as part of them are still living. Well, like I said, I don't know everything, but to me, we aren't our bodies. That's not who we are. I always look at this body, when we have a vehicle in human perspective, we try to take care of a car, especially like we have our truck or whatever it may be, especially if it's a new vehicle, right? Because we want it to last us as long as possible. So I'm not being flippant about the body, but it's just the vehicle that's required to incarnate into this lifetime. This body is not who we are. We have no need of a body when we leave, because we aren't a body when we're over on the other side. Don't get me wrong. Like when I do a mediumship reading, when I usually get somebody, they may come through the way they looked when they passed. But as the conversation flows, usually they will start to come through to me the way they felt like they looked the best and they felt the best throughout their lifetime. That's just for me. Things could be different for everybody else, right? With how you connect and you read spirit or they appear to you. But does that make sense, Michelle? Like if you think about it, like you don't need your body, right? So it's an interesting thought, though. Like you said, the Tibetan monk that told you that about transplants, that they're not moving on, as part of them is still living. Well, if you think about it, I think Spirit just gave me this. We still do have a part of ourselves living. For example, say we have children that are genetically part of us. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to diss anybody that maybe has adopted or you're a pet parent or anything like that. But genetically, you still have a part of you living here. You have half of your genetics within your genetic child, right? And the father is the other half. Now, I don't know if that's what the Spirit gave that to me, but I just got that all of a sudden, right? There's still a part of us living here. Or say we choose not to be cremated when we get buried, or when we pass away. There's still physical evidence of us in the ground here, right? Or God forbid, and it's so tragic, but say we're never found. Something happens to us and you know, our loved ones aren't able to give us a burial because they don't have our body. But our body is, say, hidden, or something's happened to it, but we're no longer on this planet, right? I don't know if that would make sense or not, and I'm not trying to convince anybody of the way I think, but to me, we don't need the body. Because I can tell you, with near-death experiences, looking at them, almost every single person in all the years I've looked at this, talked to people who have gone through them or read about them, the one thing they always say is how icky it almost feels to go back into your body, because it's dense, it's heavy, it's fragile. You almost feel like you got to squeeze into it versus who you really are as the energy, like the soul energy. So I don't know if that makes sense or not. So Michelle says, yeah, we don't know until we know. Yes, and that's another thing I always say. I'm never going to know all the answers until I go back home myself. So Z Sun Dragon says, I agree. Haffern, I think he's talking to Robin. I guess I should have said that. I forget. I know Robin. So Robin is Haffern Paranormal. So he's talking about, referring to when Robin said that once he found out his guides' names, the connection just grew exponentially. So let's see. So Z Sun Dragon says, That sure is interesting indeed, Michelle. No, I think it was a great comment and question that she asked. Oh, so Shannon, when I had asked her about the guy, that the spirit that was in black that was about 8 feet tall, so Shannon said, I think it was the angel of death. And you said that's why you were scared after. Interesting. So the angel of death. Oh boy, we could do a whole show on that one, Shannon. So Michelle said, thank you, Z-Sun. And Shannon said, sorry, it's not showing up. When he's seen, the patient dies right after. Interesting. I can't disagree with you because I know who you're talking about. I don't know if I call him the angel of death, but he knows he's been called the angel of death before. And because working in palliative care, like I don't know, like many people that I've worked with, most of them see loved ones or angels or whatever. So it's not to say that whatever this dark being is can't show up. It can. So I got to ask you, and you don't have to answer, Shannon, but when you saw him and you said you got scared afterwards, were you scared because you told him to leave? Were you worried that there would be repercussions? Is that why you were afraid? And if you're open to sharing, what kind of repercussions, or did I misconstrue it? Is there another reason why you felt afraid afterwards? And then Z Sun Dragon said about Shannon, good way to give the boot, right, Shannon? Yes, definitely. And we have that right. Okay, let's see. I love these comments and questions you guys are asking. Great conversation topics. And again, I want to make it so clear. I don't know everything. I'm just sharing with you guys what my perspective is or what I perceive things to be. And I could be totally wrong. Because again, I think it was Michelle that said that we don't know till we know. Yeah, or we don't know, I always say, until we go back home ourselves. So hang on, it doesn't want to highlight here. There we go. So Shannon said, oh, I could fill your book with what I and coworkers have seen. Well, we may have to connect once I get that down on paper. I will share one story that I was told. Somebody who is a nurse that I know, her mom was a nurse in the pediatric unit. And as she told it to me, she said it was quite a few years ago, and there was a little one about 4 years old that was terminally ill. That was a First Nations nationality. And I guess the family couldn't be there. I believe he was in the hospital and his family was way up on one of the reserves up north. And there was nobody that could be with this little one when they passed. And I think they were there obviously at the moment, but it was crazy. The floor was busy. There were so many little sick kitties up there. So, of course, like I say, they were there with the little one. And then when he was gone, they, covered him and I believe kind of closed the door a bit so nobody would go in until they could get in and properly take care of things. Well, as they were working, the call bell kept going off in that room and they'd run back and going like, what the heck? There's nobody in there and the call bell kept going off. And this happened about 4 or 5 times till the nurse that told me her mom realized that part of the native culture within that sector being I'll say tribe sector of First Nations that they belong to, that they believe that the only way the spirit could leave properly is if you opened a window. So she ran in there and she opened the window and the call bell never rang again. I don't know how the call bell rang, but the call bell kept ringing and it stopped ringing once the window was open. So go figure. Very interesting, isn't it? And again, I would never tell somebody what to believe. I'm just going to share people's stories. And I figured you would have, because you shared a few of your stories up here on here. I don't want to call them stories, things you've experienced, Shannon, when people have transitioned. So Z Sun Dragon then says, I just asked them their names. Yes. And it came. I agree, Lorilei. Yes, it makes sense. Yeah, right. Because, that's what people will say. Well, I just heard like the name Susan or Bob or something about our guides, right? It's okay. they're going to let you call them whatever you need to call them. And they will know whenever you refer to Susan or Bob, or you can get a really crazy name, doesn't matter either, right? Whatever that name is, you guys have now made that connection, as well as not only by a name, but you will start to know what they feel like energetically, and they will work with you so that you'll be able to distinguish between them. Howie, you're here. Howie, I was talking about you earlier. I just saw you. I wish you were here. Well, you know what? We got more people here. You guys are going to get sick of me doing this. Howie, I have an EVP for you to hear. Robin heard it. Everybody else has heard it numerous times that we're here at the beginning. But the reason why I want you to hear it, do you remember that show that David and I did on the thing at the foot of the bed? And that night it was crazy. And I was talking about you. Yours must have been raining because I said, Howie said, please tell me that there's an archive of the show. And I said, there's always an archive of our show, because you said you wanted to have a listen and see what came through. And then we never talked about it. But I'll give some context for people. Hi, Jane. Jane said, greetings from hot Louisiana. So what happened was I do producing for the network, not every show, but I help out. And we have a new host on the network. She's Canadian. Her name is Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. She's a medium and does some paranormal investigation. She has a really cool group on Facebook. She's really powerful. I went to one of her things one night after producing her on a Friday, and she was doing a cord cutting ceremony, and it was powerful. I could feel a lot of stuff. Anyways, like shifting and moving and what have you. Anyways, she was doing her 13th show on the network. And she had, and my brain's going to, Rick McCallum, my brain was going to leave me there for a sec. I was trying to remember his name. And he is a stunt person. Robin says he knows him well and's been on his podcast a lot. Howie was just on Robin's podcast. Him and AJ Capasso do a podcast called Talking with the Source. So Howie, I believe you were on there yesterday. And Howie has the Riff Network. I'd like to give everybody a little shout out. Anyways, I had headphones in. And I was working on some resin while Carrie had Rick on. It was her 13th show. So she was joking. It was her Friday the 13th show, because Rick is a stunt person, also is an author and paranormal investigator. And he worked quite a bit, did a lot of stunt work, and worked very closely with Kane Hodder on the Friday the 13th series. So in this recording, it's 12 seconds long. I clipped it. Carrie, the host, asked Rick something to the effect of, have you ever had an attachment? So I left a little bit of conversation at the beginning. Then you hear a very short noise that was not part of the conversation. And I left a second or two after. So I'm going to play it again right now. We have quite a few different discussions about what it might be.
Attachments? Are they coming home with you? Have you had attachments?
Yeah.
It's not a good place to be in.
So if you're listening, or how you might, I know you might be at work. So if you're listening or on the replay, if you get a chance to listen to it, they did not hear what I heard. And this was live. And I did not hear, she says, have you ever had an attachment? And then you hear almost like a, And then you hear, that's what made me look up. I thought somebody was slurping something through a straw, and it wasn't right in front of my device. I was about 4 to 6 feet away. And so I look over, nobody's drinking anything. They're still going on with the conversation. And I knew it had to be an EVP or something. So I marked it, but I kept listening to it. And at first it sounds like someone's slurping through a straw. I think it was Michelle, and I thought it was a good analogy. She said it almost sounded like something from Jurassic Park. But when you listen to it, actually, it sounds like a growl. It starts off with a and then that. Oh, so Joy says too. Yeah, she goes, yes, sounded slurping through a straw. Yeah, that's what I thought too, Joy. That's why I looked up and going, what the hell? And I'm looking and I'm going, nobody's drinking anything. And so I marked it and then I went back. And I know they didn't hear it because I know I'm repeating myself for people that have been here before. At least, I'm telling the truth because I'm telling the same story. So we have private chat on StreamYard. So I messaged Carrie and I said, hey, take a listen. Like I think you guys just got an EVP. And she didn't get a chance to check the chat. So while we were still live, I typed in the chat, hey, I think you guys, there was a noise that came through here. You may want to check it after the show. So very interesting. Okay, let's go up a little bit here. Where are we? Oh boy, you guys have made lots of comments here. Where are we? Okay, so Howie tips his hat. Michelle says, yes, makes sense. And she said, thank you. You got everybody from all over. You got Australia here, the US. I think we got some Canadians here. Oh, yeah, Kelly just popped in. Hopefully she heard the EVP. I see a little bit lower. So Jane says, greetings from hot Louisiana. I guess stay cool. Well, we're broadcasting out of New Orleans, Louisiana, even though I'm up in Canada. And Z Sun Dragon says, yes, Shannon, first thing it reminded me of, very tall, cloaked, and made me think of that. And Shannon was talking about, she's a nurse, if you just joined us, a very tall, dark, 8-foot shadow, that man almost, that looked like he was wearing a cloak. And Shannon told him to leave because it was going towards a patient. She felt that it was the angel of death, in her words. And Shannon said, you did tell me his name before. I can't remember. And so Kelly's back at Rainbow Paranormal Light. I think, well, hopefully I didn't put you in timeout. That came up. I didn't mean to. I don't think I did. So, and then Z Sun Dragon says, I seen same thing. Then same day, 2 boys got eaten by a snake. Oh my gosh, that's sad. Sadly, nearby apartment attached to a pet zoo, and they escaped. Oh my goodness. He says years ago. He said the snakes escaped, but 2 boys died. Oh my goodness, that's so sad. That really is. Oh my goodness. So Shannon said, because I had asked her, she said first she thought I had read that she was scared after she realized what she had done. So now she's responding to, I don't know if I was scared is the word. I was bothered by giving him the boot because of seeing something I wasn't expecting. But then I wondered if I was causing a patient's life to be prolonged because I didn't want to deal with a death so close to the end of shift. Okay, so what I can tell you, and I believe this as well, that we know the moment we're born, we know the day we're going to leave. Do we have some exit points built in? Yes, we can. David and I talked a bit about this on Thursday night, and maybe we might talk about it again. I was doing an energy healing session this weekend and a little bit of a reading with someone, and they gave me a great idea for a topic. I haven't asked Dave yet, but I think we're going to talk about it. We'll see. And you know who you are. I won't say anything. You know who you are. I know you'll hear this. So in my opinion, you did not prolong anybody's death. You didn't. If somebody is meant to go, they're meant to go. Because I wasn't really going to dig into this because I guess it depends on your belief system and what we see. But I just, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think the angel of death does exist. I do think the Grim Reaper exists, but I don't think they come for you. I don't know why you saw what you saw or what, but that's just my thoughts. It had no business being there. How about that? Either way. But did you prevent somebody's death? My thoughts are feeling into it. No, because if that person was meant to go, and there's nothing wrong with saying you didn't want to deal with a death so close to the end of your shift. I of all people, Shannon, I get it. Because people don't realize it's not just somebody dies. Like, you would be there for a good 2 or 3 hours afterwards with all the paperwork and everything else. So again, I could be wrong and people may tell you differently. So you got to go sort of with what resonates with you. But I don't think you did anything wrong except getting something to leave that had no business being there. How about that? Because it sounds like it was very dark. Mind you, you've had the conversation too, that not everything in shadow is always evil, right? It's not. But even when I read that, it didn't feel good. It felt heavy. It felt like it didn't belong there. It felt dark. So I think you did a good thing. I really do. That's just my thoughts. Let me see. So Shannon said, Z Sun Dragon says exactly, Laura. And Michelle Pratt, who is in Australia, says, hang on. I have my fire going. It's Burr here. See, we always forget that, right, Michelle? Like, because you guys are in Australia, it's winter time over there, and we're in the middle of summer here in North America. Oh, we'll have to send you some heat. But you guys have like summertime at Christmas. And you'll hear people say, well, how can you have Christmas without snow? Of course, you can have Christmas without snow if that's what you've had all the time. And I've seen some of the things that happen at Christmas time over in Australia. I think it's so cool. So it's so bitterly cold, and where we are at Christmas time, usually, I know Shannon can vouch for it with me. Definitely. It's super cold. So Michelle's saying maybe he was a shapeshifter. Now, are you talking about the guy that was wearing the cloak and was 8 feet tall and dark? Because heck, we haven't talked about that even yet. We're almost out of time here. We got like less than 5 minutes. You guys, I love doing shows with all of y'all here because I love hearing your thoughts and your comments and your questions. And I usually now have known just to start off with a bit of a topic because you're all so well informed and have such great questions and thoughts on things. There's so much to talk about. So I really appreciate all your input during the show. I really do. So Kelly at Rainbow Light Paranormal says, I heard it. And she said, no, I know Kelly is very well versed in EVPs and communicating with the other side because her and her wonderful hubby, Steve-O Hopkins, do quite a bit of ITC or intertrans communication and ghost boxes and EVPs and things like that. So she says it sounded like a moan of sorts. Yep, that's what I heard, but not till after the show. I didn't hear that part at first. And then Kelly adds, but I also heard something else, and then laughter right after that in the clip you shared. Yeah. So like I said, at first it sounded like a slurping straw, but or slurping from a straw. But as soon as I listened more closely, I think it was a growl personally. So Z Sundre again says, I think if it is extreme or emotions are soaring, it is possible to see that as a warning. That I definitely resonate with, and not something I ever saw before. Again, with deaths happening all the time, that I definitely resonate with. Definitely, Kevin, and I could not disagree with you in any way, shape, or form. And we're talking about Shannon's guy that was 8 feet tall with the cloak. I thought you were in. Okay, so I was pretty sure you were in Canada because you say A. Us Canadians like to say A. And the only thing is, and I know people find that funny, but we don't say A all the time, do we, Kevin or Shannon or Kelly or any other Canadians out here? We don't say A every second word. And then you get a Canadian making fun of it. And it just sounds so weird because they throw an A in where it doesn't involve, it doesn't belong. So Michelle said, easy to have Christmas without snow in Australia. By the way, I have never seen snow, and you never want to see it, believe me, because it's beautiful, but then you have to shovel it. And the first snow of the year is always beautiful, and that would be, more than enough for most people. And Zach says, excuse me, I've had Christmas time without snow for almost 24 years. Wow. Yes, I forgot. Right. Living in hot parts like in the South and in the US as well. And Zachman, she says, Michelle says, but Zachman, 52 years without snow. Michelle, I would love to send you some, but it'd never make it there. It's very beautiful to see for a first time. But I can tell you, having known people who have never seen snow and then moved to a place like, say, where I live or wherever, and it gets old very quick. It's gorgeous to see, not fun to shovel, and not the best time I like is what we call around where we sort of live, or even just my house, Christmas snow. Super, super, super fluffy and light, and it's not really cold, but it's not too warm that the snow is going to melt. I don't mind that. I like that personally. So Kevin made a joke here, and he says, no, we don't, eh? LOL. And he's talking about my little rant there about when people that make fun of us saying A. And Kelly says, no, we don't. LOL about the A again. Well, you guys, I am just about out of time here. I had so much fun with y'all. I hope you will join me This Thursday, 7 p.m., thing at the foot of the bed with David Hansel. I better get this all ready here because I got to use 2 devices because my computer likes to lag. So give me 1 sec while I'm talking here. I got to open this up, make sure that it doesn't go crazy on me. So give me a sec because I got to make sure it'll play for you guys. I have to play our little ads at the end. So give me a sec here. As I'm talking, sorry, give me 1 second because otherwise I'll get distracted. Now my phone, seriously? Now you've decided you don't want to cooperate. Don't you just love technology sometimes? Okay, hang on. I got to go. I have to use my phone. Otherwise, my computer goes too late. And Kelly says, oh, I just got back through. You have to leave so soon. We've been here for 2 hours almost. That's the problem. You'll just have to come back Thursday because Dave and I have the thing at the foot of the bed and we talk things all spooky. And I haven't ran the topic by Dave yet, but I'm sure he's going to be perfectly awesome with it. Except that I always like to do things 50-50 with Dave since it's our show. It's not my show. No, you just go mute it there. So, it's not going to mute on me, you little monkey. Hopefully it doesn't squelch on you guys. Hang on, because I have to go in here. I'm entering in. You're going to hear a beep. Let's see if you hear it. Oh, hang on. We'll see if it'll close off now because we're going to get a double audio. I'll have to close the microphone down here. Okay, so thank you, Z-Sun Dragon. He says, great show. Well, I'm so glad you were all here. If you ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/Angel Rock. If you've got a show idea, guest suggestion, maybe you want to book a reading. I do the Akashic Records. I do healing, energy healing, crystal Reiki. Also, I do mentoring. And I have 2 groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, Angel Rocker Tribe for many of the spiritual things, some of the things we've talked about. Keep your eyes open. Dave and I are trying to post when we go live on Wednesday nights. And like I said, we do free 1-question readings. We're going to start trying out some different platforms just beside TikTok. We use TikTok because Dave's got a really big platform over there. And then, like I said, we'll be back on Thursday. Don't forget, next Monday on the Angel Rock, we have one of our favorite guests. You guys have just loved her. Carmen Turner Schott with her Phoenixes and Angels new book. She's an astrologist, but she makes astrology understandable for people who may not get it so much. Like I find a lot of people in the light worker field, you either love astrology or it's like, yeah, I don't know a lot about it. She's amazing. She was just on Coast to Coast AM. Janie sent me that link. I was so happy for her. And every time I have her on, people love her. You go to her website, carnerturnershot.com, and she will send you a personalized birth chart. And I'm talking like 27-page write-up. That's for free. And she is the nicest lady. You guys will love her. Anyways, I will see you on Thursday. Did I say Wednesday, Michelle? Sorry, Shannon. She just corrected me. Thursday night. No, I was talking Wednesday night and maybe I confused it. Wednesday night is when we go live, Shannon, not on the show. We go on TikTok and we're looking at Instagram and possibly YouTube instead to give each platform a tryout. We go on there the night before to promote the show, do readings, and we do a bit of teaching and things like that in preparation for a show, The Thing at the Bed, on Thursday night here on UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please stay tuned. If you love all things paranormal, we got the Horsefly Chronicles coming up right after me tonight with Julia and Philip Syracusa. They always have amazing, amazing guests. I love you all. I will see you on Thursday. Okay, talk to you later. As I can get this to sign off here. Hang on. Now I got to get in the right thing. This is hard when I don't have a guest. Usually I do all this stuff when I have a guest. So I got to coordinate all this stuff. Okay, hang in there, guys. I'll get this playing, I promise. Okay, there we go. See you on Thursday.
It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate News on the Flip Side in the category of politics and news. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. For 4 years, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all of the 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and go out and vote now.
Looking for something new in sci-fi or fantasy? Check out what Brandon Sanderson, Orson Scott Card, Nnedi Okorafor, and others chose as the best news stories of the year in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future Anthology. From 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at galaxypress.com, Amazon, or wherever books are sold.
You are listening to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, coming to you live on 105.3 right up to 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. UPRN Talk Radio.